My child she came with all these complex needs, and she will face the risk of FGM, female genital mutilation. So I just couldn't go back home. So one thing NHS does is when you have a child with Latifah, has all the needs she has, they straight away tell you shouldn't have her, or keep her alive or him alive. If it's a boy, let her go, because even if she survives, it will be really hard. And as a mother, especially as somebody living with sickle cell, who was told, why do you even want to have a child? And I had, when I became a mom, you couldn't even tell me congratulations. Like, other moms get that congratulations, but a mother that puts to bed and you don't have that list given to you, it's congratulations, you did well, you have a boy or a guy. I didn't get that. The next thing I remember was me waking up and then them telling me, like, it was really, my baby came in distress, that she almost died and she has cerebral palsy. That is, brain damage. If she doesn't breathe for herself, we will let her go. That is, they will not resuscitate her. I am a great believer that God is the giver of life. And then I was told, yeah, I'm sorry, but you have to seek asylum. I'm like, but I have a birth certificate. Like, it didn't matter. So wow. It's like I knew that he won't be protecting my child. I just knew, like mother's instinct.
What happened when the place that you call home no longer feels safe? Imagine having to seek asylum in the very country that you were born, while raising a child with profound disabilities and managing your own chronic illness. Most people would wonder how they could keep going in such a situation. Today's guest is Njaimeh Mbogeh, an advocate, community leader, and founder of Rura, an organization committed to supporting families, building community, and help people navigate most difficult challenges with dignity and hope. But Njaime's mission wasn't born from comfort. It was forged after seeking asylum in her country of birth in 2019. She found herself navigating an uncertain system while raising her child with profound disabilities, all whilst living with a disabling chronic illness herself. Every day became a choice to keep showing up, even when the odds seemed impossible. In today's conversation, we're talking resilience, we're talking motherhood, ability, chronic illness, faith, and what it really means to keep moving forward when life asks more of you than you ever imagined. Whether you are carrying responsibilities that no one else sees, or you're wondering, how will I find the strength for another day? I believe this conversation will remind you that hope can grow in the hardest place. So let's dive in. I believe the beginning of the challenge of your story includes something many people would find incredibly difficult, and that is the fact of you having to seek asylum in a country that you were born in, your own country of birth. So can you take us back to that time and what life looked like for you from back then up to now?
Wow, it was really hard. I mean, even now I cannot understand it, because that will never happen in Africa, let alone in the Gambia. In the Gambia, we are called the smiling coast of Africa. And one of the things tourists say about us is just Gambian people are so warm and hospitable. So to come back to the country of my birth, where my parents work and pay taxes. My dad was a marine engineer. My mom worked as well and, was studying. So I was born here, and I have the government birth certificate still. So what I don't understand is when I came here on maternity leave, I definitely wasn't didn't plan to stay because I was working. I've just been promoted 6 months before as the principal personnel officer HR. So I was really supervising a team. When my director wasn't around, I would supervise the unit that I was, which was the management services division. And that unit under the PMO is really responsible for government's organizational development. So what we do, it's like, if you like, PMO is the pioneer of things. So we bring things and make sure it's gotten right and then share it with other health HR units in all the different MDAs in government. That was PMO's role. So we did things like in that role, staff inspection, job evaluation, but we were also in charge of the workforce budget. That is, we will advise government on how many numbers of people they need for each position, putting the right people in the right places, talent management. And so to come here, and really it was just to come from maternity leave, because it just makes sense because of my health condition and how maternal mortality was going up in the Gambia. And I knew for people living with sickle cell, in fact, when I wanted to have a child, one doctor told me that, why will you even want to have a child? Don't you remember you have sickle cell? So I know with that conception and our health system, it makes sense then to come to the UK, have my baby and go back. I was still married then as well. So there was no way I was going to stay here. Except my child she came with all these complex needs, and she will face the risk of FGM, female genital mutilation. So I just couldn't go back home. So I felt, okay, we hear all the great things about UK. I'm like, if any country will give my child protection, it will be the UK, and I have the birth certificate. Yeah. I'm like, now it makes sense to stay here. So I asked, can I stay here? And I was told, no. The only way you can stay here permanently is to seek asylum. So before then, I've come in here several times as a visitor, but I didn't mind because I didn't want to stay here. Also, I did my master's in the UK at the University of Coventry. So I have a master's in HRM because I worked in public service. My work was HR. So I have a HR degree, master's with distinction. So I thought all of that meant something, but even more importantly, my birth certificate that was given to me by the government, it wasn't forged at all. So it's still something I cannot understand.
Wow. I'm trying to put my head around what you've just said. And what reason did they give you that they are not really validating that birth certificate? The fact that you were born in this country, why is it not really being validated or taken as it is that you're born here?
Yeah, because fortunately or unfortunately, I was affected by the change of laws in 1982. Margaret Thatcher, the Prime Minister, then changed the law of citizenship. So, which meant if you're born in the UK and your parents were not from here, you had to stay here, I think, continuously for 10 years before you were given the passport. And because I didn't, and I was born in 1985, so that law affected me. But what I don't understand, laws are supposed to be progressive. Like, I know then, understanding the history of UK, like now that I'm beginning to learn a bit more about it, is she needed to do that. She needed to do that because at that time, the country was going through difficulties, especially economically. And that was one of the ways she felt they could save government some money because of everyone else that was coming here, having their kids. Of course, we know there were a few people who come here just to have their kids. And, you cannot really judge anybody because people's life experiences are different. Anybody that has to do something, and I know, having to be a refugee in my own country of bad, that anybody that has to leave home and choose another country as their home, it's usually not something they just choose because they really want it. It's more than just what the world has to offer. I know that for Africans, because I'm African, our home, our lands are quite important to us. We don't just leave it behind, you see. If we have to do that, it means there's something really going on. So I'm not judging anybody, but I also understand why Tasha had to do that. But the thing is to always question as politicians and leaders whether such laws, this law is now 40 years old because I am 40. Does it really speak to the realities of our times? Is it really serving the UK? If you look at UK's labor market, who make up the labor market of UK really? It's people who come in. So I think it's to rationalize that. So I understand it, but at the same time, being an African and especially a Gambian, how welcoming we are, especially to the British because of our colonial history. Gambia and UK goes a long, long way back because the Gambia was used as the route, a major route, in fact, during the transatlantic slave trade. So the history is long and deep. And then to come and really have a need and I have a birth certificate, that's a government document, and be told no, where we see the need, the only way for you to stay here is to seek asylum. Like the question is then, why do I have the birth certificate? Why did you even give it to me then if you knew that it's really, I keep telling myself, I like to make things, water them down a bit so I can survive things. I'm like, maybe when next I get fish and chips, I should use my birth certificate. I just wrap my fish and chips in it. Perhaps I know then there's some value. It has no value. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that's interesting. You've described having to survive the system whilst caring for your child. So what were some of the biggest challenges that you've had to face during that season of having to hear you're surviving a system, and on the other hand, you're having to look after and take care of your own child? Can you just take us back and take us through that season of how everything played out to you emotionally, physically, mentally?
It was very hard, but I also think it's the time of my most highest growth personally. Yeah, the experience has been very humbling because I do come from privilege back home. Like back home, even just my name, both in the Gambia and Senegal, commands respect. All I have to do is say my name is Njaimeh Mbogeh, and they're like, yeah, like even in Senegal that I wasn't born in, you're from here. Like, what do you need? That's really the response I get. So to then come here and then have to seek asylum, and they have a word for it. They will label you as a destitute, and in fact, they make you feel like one. They do.
Wow.
So it's just coming from that. It's really coming from grace to grass. So that's really the story. Yeah. And my family, we are the ones back home, whether it was in the Gambia or even Senegal, the people who go to when they need help, to then be the person that needs help. That was hard. It was. But also one thing NHS does is when you have a child with Latifah that, has all the needs she has, they straight away tell you shouldn't have her, or keep her alive or him alive, if it's a boy, because already the NHS is thinking about the cost of keeping that child alive. So already, like, Latifah came and consultants, all they were telling me is like, you need to let her go because even if she survives, it will be really hard. And they were right, it was really hard. But as a mother, especially as somebody living with sickle cell who was told, why do you even want to have a child? And I had, when I became a mom, you couldn't even tell me congratulations. Like other moms, you have a child who has, they believe, don't have a problem list, because NHS will like this wrong list where they will write everything she has and then call it a problem. So you don't get that congratulations, but a mother that puts to bed and you don't have that list given to you, it's congratulations, you did well. You have a boy or a guy. I didn't get that.
Yeah.
So already they were telling me and giving me a story that life was going to be hard and maybe I wasn't up to the challenge. So it was better to let her go. That is what I was told as a new mom. Yes.
Wow.
That's just the beginning of the story. I could go on, but I don't know how, in terms of time, how long we have, but that was just
you can go on. If feel free if you want to continue talking about that.
Latifah came, and so I was knocked out, because what we planned to do. So because of my sickle cell, and I have this major back surgery because of sickle cell, we had to change the plan. So I was going to have natural delivery, but then doctor came back and said, we looked at your back and we think that won't be wise. Excuse me. So we will give you general anesthesia, which means first the option was regional, which means around my tummy area, and I will feel everything else. So around my tummy area and everywhere else involved in delivery will be numb. And that's what we agreed to. But they came by and said, no, they have to really knock me out. So it was a planned delivery. So the plan was before I had that, I'll go in hospital and have the rare cell exchange, which is what I do now to maintain my sickle cell. That's what I'm going to do on Thursday. That's why I'm a bit unwell this week. So that does is they will remove some of my sickle red blood cells and give me red blood cells that are not sickled. So it's not a top-up, it's not a transfusion, it's not that simple. It's an exchange. So they will do that for me, and then I will have a C-section. That was the plan. However, Latifah chose to come 6 days early. And what happened, my doctor had already planned his holiday. So, and then the day we went, firstly, I had to convince the midwife that my water had broke. She said, no, it didn't. But as soon as she was dismissing me off the table, the bed, examination bed, my water broke again, or it was a contraction, I don't know, but something happened. And then that's when she said, you're right, and asked me to she then put me in bed. But I remember, I've been going in and out of sleep, but nobody came to see me till very late in the day. And we got in the hospital 3 a.m., because my water broke at home 1 a.m. and we had to call them, but they weren't sure if it was my water. So we got to the hospital 3 a.m. But it was like later in the day that somebody saw me, and it will be just before the evening that they will scan for baby. And then they told me it was in distress, which means everything now was wrong. So I really didn't remember anything else, because I think from that point, I might have gotten an exchange and then rushed into theater. I was completely knocked out. The next thing I remember was me waking up and then them telling me, like, it was really, my baby came in distress, that she almost died and she has cerebral palsy. That is, brain damage. That's what they said. And while she was there in neonates, really fighting for her lives, she will also be diagnosed with epilepsy, because they were able to scan her brain and they saw that she was having seizures. So it was caught while in neonate. So she was diagnosed of extensive cerebral palsy and then epilepsy. So she was on all these tubes. And so they were like, if she doesn't breathe for herself, we will let her go. That is, they will not resuscitate her. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, I am a great believer that God is the giver of life. And if he gave me Latifah, there was a reason why. And if she was going to stay, she will. If not, she will go as well. So I said, okay. So I told him, can we at least wait until after the 7 days? Because as Muslim, we give our babies their name on the 7th day. And then we can remove and see. If she doesn't breathe, then we can do what they suggested. They said, right, they can do that. So the 7th day came, we gave her name. Nobody was really there. It was just me, my auntie, my sister, and an imam to give her the name. And we did the little rites we could, brought collar, break a collar, because that's what we do as Africans as well. Her hair was shaven off, and she was given her name. And, not long after, we just removed everything. But like I said, God is the giver of life, and she held on. In fact, Latifah started breathing better, stronger than when she was on all those lines. And that's when I knew she was a warrior too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And what was their response?
Well, no further response, because she was breathing and it was so strong that you couldn't miss it. So there was no way they are going to tell me again, like, you have to let your child go. But they continued this narrative of how life will be hard, that the more they're investigating what she has, they are finding that, like, her cerebral palsy is very extensive. It's linked to areas that are linked to her movement. So she will never walk, and she might never talk and all of that. So it became about all the things she couldn't do. Never once I was told a bit of what she could do, what possibilities were there for her. It was always what she couldn't do and how life will be for us, for me, especially with my sickle cell. So that's how it was. And then when we tried to feed her, she wouldn't really feed. So she was fed through her nose. So NG fed, and that's how she fed. And then when we spent, is it 1 week or 2 weeks where she was born LGI? LGI is currently being under investigation because they found that there's a lot of failure at the maternity unit, and this came to light because they had to do it in Bradford and they saw how women were filled, especially Black women like me. So yeah. So so they then move us to St. James, which is another hospital here in Leeds. They said it's more comfortable, so we could try to work on her feeding. So we moved there, but she just wouldn't. So we had to go home with her tube. And then I was shown like a bit of how to care for her. But then once we settled at home, we had outreach coming to us. That's a nurse at home, just checking that, I was taking care of her rightly, and then showing me other things as she began to need other things, just to care for her, because she was tube feeding. So I had to learn how to do that. And because everything was through a tube, it came with a lot of other things, like you needed syringes to feed her, to give her water. And then she was on a lot of medication. So yeah. So that was that. And yeah. And then just as so Latifah was born in September, and I had to go back to work. Remember, I had come on maternity leave. My leave was ending in December. So I was to go back to work in January. But by the time January was coming, it became clear that I couldn't go back home. So I had to write to my office and say, this is the condition of my child. I can't go. And then the hospital have told me, we wouldn't really know the full extent of how everything affects her or what else she will have until she turns 2. So I'm like, okay, the best decision now is to take leave of absence, because that can go up to 2 years, which is what I did. Well, which means it became clear that I had to stay here. And that's when I went to ask, how do I stay here? Because now I need to, because my child wouldn't survive in Africa, like not in the Gambia with our health system. Also, there was the risk of FGM. So, yeah. And then I was told, yeah, I'm sorry, but you have to seek asylum. I'm like, but I have a birth certificate. Like, it didn't matter. So,
wow. Jaime, so for my audience, go on.
No, I was going to say, so January, then I put in a claim that, an asylum seekers claim. So there's a organization here, a local one, PAFRAS, maybe it's national as well, but they help refugees and asylum seekers. So they got me a case worker for free, who then put in my claim. And it was there that it was decided that I was destitute. And over time, of course, the Home Office and everybody in that system that is supposed to help you with accommodation and things like that make you feel like a destitute. In fact, because I am dark and I have my veil on, most people assume I cannot speak English. So when I wrote my first note, I was asked whether I wrote it myself. I'm like, come on, I have a master's degree. Do you have one? Yeah. Yeah.
For my audience who are watching, Njaime, you mentioned that one of the reasons that you had to stay here and not go back to Gambia was because you didn't want your daughter. Is it your daughter? You've got a daughter, right? Yeah. You didn't want Latifah to face it. You said it was
FGM, female genital mutilation. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that to my audience for those who don't know what that is, because you did mention the
Yeah,
word, and
so
some people
it's
might
the
not know what that
mutilation of,
includes.
sorry.
Go on.
Yeah, so it's the mutilation of the female genitals. And some people just do it,
Right.
remove everything basically. It depends. Like it depends on which area, what tribe. So the severity then can be different. So I didn't know until I got married that my mother-in-law is one. I don't know if she still is, but she was one. And I know I spoke to my husband about this, and then we agreed, like, we're not going to have it for my child, because if you're lucky enough, your father can make sure you don't go through it. You know, some fathers do that. I know this. So, you know, so we spoke about it. Like I said, in case my child becomes female, like we're not doing this. And we agreed as a couple. However, it's when I saw the look on his face, the smile on his lips, when his knees, you know, when it was done on his knees, it's like I knew that he won't be protecting my child. I just knew, like mother's instinct, because what they also do, it's the culture. You see, society makes up its own people, and then
Yes.
people make up society, you see. So you cannot really blame anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Grandmothers, their act of law in Gambian society is to make sure your daughter remains honorable, which is that to make sure that on her wedding night she's found a virgin, and this is what they do. So they feel that you shouldn't even bother with that. That is their rule. So they will make sure of it. And those who have the skill to do it, they will. Or what they will do if they don't have the skill, you take your child to them maybe for a weekend or something. They will not even tell you. They will take the child away. Because one, it's an act of love. Two, even if you tell them, I don't want this for my child, in African culture, most times, well, should it be all the time? I don't know, but elders tend to feel they know the best. We're not saying what they know has no value. We're just saying we have to understand that, like Maya Angelou says, when you know better, you do better. Dr. Maya Angelou says this. You know, so sometimes we do things because we think is the way to be done. But over time you realize, no, this has no value. It's just pain, pain, pain. Then you reverse that, because you have the power to reverse things, don't you? But that is what, as Africans, we don't do well enough, because we are very historical, you see. So that is what I needed to save people from. And also the barriers of society. In Africa, even today, because most societies are very, well, it's a man's world. I find even in the UK is a man's world. If you're born female, you're already less than. I know this from my own lived experience. And then you add on a disability to it. Latifah had multiple. I have sickle cell, but my locus is hidden. You cannot really tell by looking at me. And on top of everything I do, like even when I go to the hospital and tell people I have sickle cell, doctors don't believe me. Because actually, I'm not supposed to have the life I have because I have sickle cell. I don't know. I guess I'm a weird case. So you have multiple disabilities, and Latifah's disabilities were mainly physical. They were very visible. All her life, she was sitting in a wheelchair, paralyzed in all four limbs. So you can imagine the life Latifah will face, even if, the health system was all right and she'll be fine medically. It's just that she wouldn't have any place in society back in the Gambia. What they expect of people living with disability generally is they are on the streets, they're to be pitied, and when you're a person by, you throw them a coin or two. You are not even expected to get close to somebody, especially if you have epilepsy where you fit. When you fit and you fall, you take out those things. People generally run away from you because we believe if that gets on you, you too will have what they have. And we link it to the spiritual. Yeah. So Latifah definitely wouldn't have had a life in the family. So I had to stay. And then, ironically, I thought UK will give me that protection because that's what we see at the international scene. That's how UK markets itself. That's how UK brands itself. And you wonder why people are coming here.
Can I stop you for a minute? You've used two words that I really liked describing the UK. I like that you said marketing and branding. That's very interesting. And sorry, just to disrupt you for a minute. This is how Africa itself, for people who've not been there, how they've gotten to think that Africa looks like is how they saw it through branding and marketing.
Yeah.
And they have no clue that the things that they are seeing through the branding and marketing is not true. They are seeing the worst part. They are shown the worst part of the marketing and the branding. And on the Western world is the opposite.
Yeah. My grandmother brought me up until I was 7 because my parents, they were here and they didn't want to even go back home. They probably wouldn't have. But my father's only surviving brother died. And so his village people, like his family, they asked him to go back home. So that's why they went back. So the way my grandmother raised me up was through song, story, and dance. And then you find in the world generally, it's really who tells the story best. And that's what UK can do. That's what US can do. Yeah. And then, I was just listening to something that the Nigerian writer said, Njaime or something. I cannot say her full name. That great writer, she writes fictional story that she was sharing a story of a Belgian lady. Yeah, she just have a big book out, something around dreams. That a Belgian lady or Belgian Nigeria shared with her that, when my child goes to school here in Belgium, they teach them history, but they don't share anything about Congo or, some other African country.
Yeah, I know.
It's the same. Yeah. My nephew is 9 and he goes to school here. And then when they're teaching them any history that is like international history, where they have to share a bit about colonialism or something related to that, anything that involves some other people, UK is always painted with the brightest of colors and everybody else with the dullest and the darkest of colors. So it's just really who tells the story best. Like last time he was telling me that we're learning about, what is it called? The carnival. And if you're in UK or you understand the history of the carnival, it's very, very rich. It's very historic as well. But he also is all about singing and dancing. It's just a fun day. I'm like, seriously. So that is how our stories are told. If you put the TV on here, it's like they paint Africa as just a big begging continent. Like every 8 somehow is linked to somebody in Africa or somebody that looks like an African and then the African is painted as somebody looking like me, not necessarily with the veil, but the person is usually dark, looking very dirty, has some disease or is hungry. So if everybody else, that's what they're seeing and that's what they are telling our kids as well in school. Of course, that's the picture of Africa you see, but they don't tell you the picture of Africa they found when they came. When did slavery come to an end? Is it 1809, 19th century? So it's only 200 years ago, thereabout, that it came to an end. Right. So they don't talk about Africa they found, the place that was rich, not only in humans, but on our lands, under our lands, in our seas. They are not telling our kids and everyone else when they do it, they are branding and marketing of what they found and what they took from Africa. And we can see the remnants of that in their museums everywhere, whether it's in UK museums or museums in Paris, in France. You can see it. Yet, of course, it's not from Africa. And if it's from Africa somehow, and now they want to say it's from them, something's added on it. Perhaps it will be painted to look a little bit brighter, so it can look like it's from here, because everything from Africa, of course, is painted dark. Remember, we are called the dark continent for nothing. So that's the story. So it's who can tell it best, really.
I like that. I like the way you phrase that. Who can tell the story better? Wow. It's just like people in a relationship, 2 people in a relationship, maybe they're falling out, they're having problems. So it's who's going to tell their story better of what happened in that marriage that people will really believe, right?
Yeah, it's only those two people who really know what happened. Or sometimes they don't really know what happened. Like sometimes it's my life experience and you cannot really get it. Like my husband, he wasn't a bad man, but our values were quite dissimilar. Yet we are all from noble blood. Mine is even more noble because I have some royal blood. But you know what I mean? So my mother's generation, the way they will pick a husband for you is you are nobility, he has to be nobility. But I'm finding that's not enough. And that's where we are getting it wrong. Because most people in Africa I find has noble bloods, but they don't even know what it means. Like they don't know what their name means, what their family brings with them. They don't know it. And so if you don't know it, you get lost in what today's society tell you your name should be about, and then you get confused. So that what's happened. So I'm telling you that this thing you say you want, I don't really need it. If you are saying that you want it for us, and I'm telling you I don't need it, but you're not listening to me, but everybody else, because that's what you see in society. And I tell you what I tell you, and then you're like, she's a woman, and just women, they just make a lot of noise. I'm not any woman. I mean, that's why you married me in the first place, remember? Because I'm not any woman. So why won't you listen? You know, and then so that's why I'm saying sometimes even the two people in the relationship do not really know. And so I feel I don't understand why you're upset, because we talked about this and I said this is what I will do. You are like, well, why will you do that? Because everybody else is doing this and everybody else is okay with it. Well, I'm not okay with it. And you think I'm being disloyal to you, and I'm feeling, wait a minute. You know, I chose you because I thought of, you know, you had this character that matched this person that I fell in love with. This is dishonest to me. You know, so that mismatch. So sometimes even two people, that's how they don't really get it. And then marriages fall apart. Not necessarily they were bad or somebody did something really bad. Well, it can be bad depending on how you look at it. But if society, like I was saying today on my page, where I am creating that community to build resilience, is if society says this is what a good woman is, this is what a good woman is expected to be, just like the 2016 we have, they're saying gift again. So if I internalize that as a woman, that, oh, to gain, I have to give, really? So I'm in this marriage that I'm not happy in, but you're telling me give to gain. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll stay and keep giving. That's what I'm expected to do. That's what a good woman does. See? That's why I started off with saying you cannot really blame anybody, because we make the people for each society, and then, you know, those people then make up society. The same way we create our leaders. Yeah.
That's right. Very, very great. Absolutely agree with that one. I'm looking at your story. You've got sickle cell, and you've got your daughter. She's got the condition that she has. So how do you find the strength to keep going whilst you are caring so much? I mean, there's a lot of things that you're carrying or you were carrying. How did you manage to be able to carry all that together?
Yeah, I think what carried me through was faith. I'm not the best Muslim woman. My life, it's still my faith. It's still a work in progress, but I am very faithful. I don't know whether that is something that is one of the things really you have to be, whatever you describe your faith to be, really, to really live well with a chronic disease, whether it's sickle cell or something. And, you know, my aim is not only to survive, but to thrive. So that helped me, like, because it's been my life, like my life hasn't really gone smoothly because of my sickle cell, especially from university. Like my first 2 years of university went through well. In fact, I got in university with a scholarship because my high school grades were that good. But I lost that scholarship because I couldn't maintain my marks because, well, I missed so many exams and some teachers just wouldn't give me makeup exams. And it's happening even here because people just don't understand chronic disease, especially one that is very fluid, like sickle cell, which some days I can be like this, other days I cannot do anything at all. So you tell them,
Right.
they are like, "What I saw you just yesterday on Sunday's podcast, and today you're telling me you
Right.
cannot do this exam." You see, that's how it is now. So some lecturers wouldn't give me any makeup exam, so I had to repeat that course again, which means a 4-year course for me became 6 years. And I got in studying 2 majors, English language and development studies, except because of that. And by the time I was finishing like my development studies, one of our main courses, a 400 level course by one of our main doctors, he was arrested under Jaime's government, so I couldn't do his exam. So now I got graded down, so I couldn't have a major in my development studies. Sorry, but I've covered everything. So I graduated with a minor in development studies and a major in English language. So which means if I give you my bachelor's, you see my degree is in English, but actually it's English and development studies, you see. And it's happening even here. One of my friends, she is studying a PhD. In fact, she's done. So it was just one thing. I don't know, it's an evaluation or something that's keeping her from her getting her doctorate, but they won't give her. And she couldn't because she was in hospital. She's been in hospital so many times that semester she couldn't, but you see. So generally, so then you bring that life experience. Also, when I got married, after my first year, I got really ill. I got really, really ill. I thought I was going to die, really. That's when I had this back surgery. And one thing I always remember, my, ex-husband, like you give people their due. He was really there for me and his family then. So when he came to me and he wanted to do this, I felt my only way was also to show him that, I am worthy. Like that's what they tell us as noble. Like nobody should be better than you. If you like if somebody
Yeah.
did good for you, you had to match it or you do better than that. All of will say, "Don't again, agora." That's what it meant. It means. So I'm like, okay, I don't really accept it because it's gonna be really hard for me. But you stood by me, and if this what you feel is what you want to, I'll stand by you. But here are my conditions. So yeah, that's it. So I guess everything they say, nothing is lost really. It prepares you for the next thing, but you have to first embrace it faithfully and really do your best to not be brought down by everything else that will come with that. And so when I came here, and because work is also not remote, at least not in the civil service, we call it civil service, public service, it's not remote, which means I couldn't be here and still work for government. I had to voluntarily retire. So I was just really, was rising in senior management and going into the C unit. So my next promotion will have made me a director or a deputy permanent secretary. That is how high my position was when I had to retire, you see. But I had to let it go so that I could stay here and care for Latifah. So I had to really give up the life I knew, everything I knew and loved. It was in the Gambia to be able to stay here. And here is really not supportive for my sickle cell. The weather doesn't work, nor does the food. Because you go to the supermarket, they tell you this organic is not. And that doesn't help. And there's no sunlight as well. So here I have to take so many medication just to stay alive. I have to be on vitamin D.
Wow.
I have to be on penicillin. Like Gambia, I wasn't on any of these, and I wasn't on an exchange therapy. All I needed in the guy was my folic acid because we had the good food, we have sunlight. Also,
The sunshine.
our in Africa, yes, society is communal. Even though I like living alone, I like my space, but there'll always be somebody. Here you don't have that. When you live alone, you are alone. So that's it. And I was living in the so I was single parenting because 2 months after, just when we got out of hospital, 2 weeks exactly out of hospital, my husband left me. Actually, he was just bluffing, but I am Mbogeh, and you don't really bluff us, like seriously. By the time I was already tired as well. So, he called to say that he didn't think I'll marry you work anymore. I'm like, is that what you want? He said, yes. I'm like, well, send that letter. And that was how it ended. And I couldn't get that letter until the year later when he was traveling because he was just bluffing. I'm like, wow, you just don't know me at
Wow.
all. And I'm not saying this out of ego or hurt. No, it's just when I love, but when I'm done, I'm done. Also, I've said this so many times that I was getting tired, but men, they just don't listen to men. I don't know why. It's like what this song says. You only know you love her when you let her go.
Okay. For people like myself, and I want to believe the majority of my audience, or some of the people in my audience, might not even understand much or anything about sickle cell. And I know about sickle cell as just a name of a disease, but I didn't really understand anything about it. Can you just highlight with us, can you just highlight for us how life on a day-to-day looks like for someone with sickle cell? Because I want to believe that this kind of education can help, someone out there. For someone who is dealing with someone or working with someone with sickle cell, they could be more empathetic and more understanding of the situation.
Yes, and I'm sorry I'm interrupting with drinking some, but that's how I keep alive.
It's all right.
So I was having tea and that's water. So sickle cell is both a disease and a disorder. It's a non-communicable disease, which means I cannot give it to you. It's passed on genetically, so family to family. It's a disorder because this disorder lies in our red blood cells. So the red blood cells of everybody is the oxygen carrying blood of humans. So it's what carries oxygen around our body, and oxygen is what keeps us alive, right? So because of the shape of our red blood cells, which is sickled, and that's where the name comes from, the sickle is the farming instrument and is used to harvest rice. But if you don't know that, it's also the shape of the moon, the Christian shape of the moon. So our red blood cells are like that rather than round and smooth. So people who do not have sickle cell, their red blood cells are round and smooth. Ours is like that, which means it's very difficult for it to flow through your bloodstreams. And so wherever they get stuck, it brings pain, and that's what we call pain crisis. And that is why you need to keep hydrated. You need to drink a lot to help move that. But also 70 to 80% of our blood is water. And that's why you need to keep drinking.
Right.
So what happens then? Because this is all internal, your blood is inside. Wherever it gets stuck, it brings pain. But also, if it gets stuck somewhere, it means where it needs to go to, it's not going through. And wherever then it's not going through, it's depriving that area of oxygen. So if that area doesn't have oxygen, that area is dying. So in that way, it's progressive, which means the more you're having crisis, the more it's causing damage internally to your organs. And sickle cell generally will affect your vital organs, your heart, your kidney, your liver, things like that. So that is how serious sickle cell is. And those who have the trait rather than the disease, I have the disease, which is I have the SS genotype. Those who have the trait, which is they have the single S, so they don't have the full-blown sickle cell disease. Some people are asymptomatic, which means they carry the sickle cell gene, but they don't show any symptoms. However, if they get married to somebody who has the same trait and doesn't have symptoms, they are likely to have a child with sickle cell, a child like me. And that is why you have to test before you get married. But in Africa, we are not so good at testing. Also, it gets mixed even here because here at the NHS, if you have the sickle cell trait, they don't follow you up. It's when you have the disease, which means you can have it and not know and go and get married to somebody with a trait and have somebody with sickle cell. That is now in the UK, even though sickle cell is considered a rare disease, is the fastest growing genetic disease because people are getting married and not testing because they have no symptoms to tell them this might be sickle cell. So on a day-to-day basis, like I would say, it's very fluid. It's so many things can affect it. Like the other time, yesterday, I couldn't do anything at all because I couldn't sleep the night before. So sometimes we have insomnia, and I had a very busy week, and on Sunday, me and my friend went to Bradford for International Women's Day, and then came too late.
Yeah.
We had poetry performance. Before I could get home, it was 9 because it was really difficult to get a taxi. So I was really looking forward to just eat, rest, and go to bed. But then I went to bed. I couldn't sleep. My mind was so full. I wasn't in pain, but sometimes my brain wouldn't sleep. It just wouldn't shut
Right.
down. So I woke up in the morning, just a mere hour in the morning. I started having pain. So I just couldn't do anything yesterday. And that's it, because I had to really take it slow. I couldn't even have my shower till the evening because I had pain everywhere and I live alone. So that's how it can be day to day. So sometimes you cannot manage that at home. You have to go to the hospitals. However, the problem with
Right.
hospitals here is there's always some infection going in the hospital or generally
Found in the
outside.
hospital. Yeah.
Public transport can be a threat to someone living with sickle cell. Also, because here, until recently, sickle cell is considered a black disease or a disease brought
Yeah.
in by migrants, because a GPD told me this in 2021, 2022, when I went and he didn't know what to do with my sickle cell complaint. He told me, we only see 2 people with sickle cell here. And, it's generally, people who come that bring sickle cell. That's what I was told. So because of that, when I called to get an ambulance, it doesn't come. Then when my child was alive, because epilepsy is already considered a disability, but like cancer, it's generally termed a white disease. And in my community, if I tell people it has epilepsy, they tell me, no, we don't have that. Or they will tell me spiritual, because of course it's considered a white disease. But when I call and say my child is having a seizure, which is related to epilepsy, an ambulance will come. But when it's high crisis, an ambulance do not come, you see.
Wow.
So that is it. That's sorry, what's your
Go on.
question? Yeah,
No, I was
I
just saying,
said
I thought by
that's
now,
the disparity we see in the system here, when you're dealing with the system.
I thought by now they would at least have an understanding of what sickle cell is about. I mean, the kind of pain, the things people go through. I'm surprised that they don't really
they're
understand it
beginning to
yet.
have an understanding because of people like me that have been asked to seek asylum or just been treated really badly. But generally, because of people like us that advocate, talk about it, it's improving. People like us that partake in research is improving. So they're beginning to understand a bit about sickle cell. Also realizing that it's time, it's taken seriously. Because if it's growing that fast and becoming the fastest growing genetic disease, soon enough, it won't be a rare disease. So until resources is put into this, so that it's understood, we will keep missing it, and it will keep bringing a lot of cost rather than our society benefiting from everything else we can do. Because yes, I have sickle cell, but I also do so many other things. And I know over the years I've been here 6 years now continuously. I've contributed so much. But even with my master's dissertation, which was a consultancy project for YMCA, Coventry and Warwickshire, where I was looking at apprenticeships project, why people are not completing their project and questioning whether it's due to housing. And because of my HI background, I linked that to talent management and development, but also as a model of lifelong learning. And that's what got me my distinction. Even just that is great work that the YMCA is using. So I have contributed greatly to this place. So if then they help us look after ourselves better and take care of ourselves better so we can stay well and not have to use the hospital so much or be inactive at home because we are unwell, then we will contribute even much more, and then we bring down that wage bill that government keep crying about and saying is people living with disability that are getting all the benefits. I need to drink.
No problem. You drink away because you really need to do that. I've had similar stories of parents from other parents who are caring for children with additional needs. And they often say that having to care for a child with additional needs changes your perspective of life completely. What
It
matters,
depends.
what doesn't matter, all that is changed. So what you say that's the same in your case? That
Yeah, I see what
your
they mean.
experience.
I see what they
Yeah.
mean because especially if you are like me, you're single parenting, you live alone, you're the only adult with your child, and also you have your own health needs that like sickle cells, you cannot tell when you'll be sick. Sometimes you do everything right. You keep drinking water, taking your meds, and doing everything right, except it just comes because any little stress can trigger a crisis. It doesn't like stress too. And life of a parent care is very, very stressful. It's very, very stressful.
Right.
So I guess then when you live a life of a parent carer, it's you do intense caring, which means, and some people call it extreme caring. It's really a 24-hour, 7 days a week kind of thing, especially if it's just you and your child. Like Latifah, she has epilepsy, which means she's at a risk of SIDO, which is sudden unexpected death due to epilepsy, which means unusually happens at night. She can die in her sleep. Even when she's sleeping and I'm ready now to go to bed because I have to first feed her when she's bed. Her last meal is at 9, give her all her meds, and her feeding will take minimum an hour because she has refluxes, which means she tends to throw up her feed. It means you cannot hasten her feed. It has to be at least an hour, sometimes longer if she's unwell. It can be up to 2 hours sometimes, 3 sometimes at hospital. And you have to wait for some of her meds for her to finish for you to give it to her. So those will need to be prepared while she's on her meal, and then you give it to her one at a time. And it is after that that I can go to bed. But if I'm going to bed because it's just me and her, I have to read sleep when she's sleeping. And basically, I have my one ear open because if I hear her like she's having a seizure, I wake up just to be sure it's not going to be pseudo. So that also I need to time it because when it gets to that 5 minutes mark, I am then ready to give her rescue meds. So you see what that means, which means then, like I was telling my friend just on Sunday, that when you are a parent carer, you choose your battles. Like even generally, because we don't have a lot of time here in the UK, is because everything is really on you. You have to pick and choose your battles. But even more when you're a parent caring. So like I was telling her because sometimes she looks at me in wonder, and I was telling her, some people wonder if it's the same that was taking care of Latifah, because most people know me as Latifah's mom. I said, yes, this Njaime has always been there, but this Njaime had to like die, if you like, so that I can give everything she needed to live the life she lived, so that I could give her the very best, because I left everything at home just to be her mother, to be the mother that she needs, not the one I saw people sometimes become, but the mother she needs. There were certain things I could focus on. And in fact, like, because I really love my job and I know I was making a difference, because my feedback will come, and not only the civil servants will tell me who were our customers, if you like, they were the users of PMO services, but it's everybody else that I work with in the different MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies. I always have great feedback. So I know I was, for me, contributing to my national development. To have to leave that behind, everything else, my husband, but everything else I was working in, I was volunteering in a social enterprise called She Creates Africa. And then there was the Sickle Cell Association that I co-founded. It's the first and foremost. So I had to let go of all of that just to come here and start all over again with all of this judgment and biases from people assuming I cannot even speak English, or that like when I take Latifah to hospital, they will not even talk to me. They will talk to the nurses because they just assume I won't understand what they're saying. After all, they are consultants and they've read big book and I can't understand. Yeah, it was just me and Latifah, and I think I know her. So I have to sometimes, most time I have to call the hospice she goes to and tell them, can you please talk to the doctors here? Because they won't just listen to me. And I think I know my child. So those people will have to call the hospital and tell them she knows what she's talking about. For them to come and talk to me and just look at me like another human. It's just so many things. So what I did was, because I still wanted to do something, even though I really love Latifah and I love taking care of her, not being able to do anything, because if you're seeking asylum in the UK, you're not allowed to work. So what I did was I built on my advocacy. And that is how I created, together with other advocates around the world, So Just Be, the Sickle Cell magazine, and Epilepsy for Black Africans and other marginalized ethnic group. The aim of that, which came out by Latifah's story, is to hopefully bridge the data gap. Because when Latifah, she was recommended to go on the ketogenic diet, which is, a diet that you are recommended to go on. It's a fat-based diet to help with your seizures. For some people, it does help. So for us to trial that out. But the information I got, it didn't really answer my question as a Black African mother with a Black African child. So I'm like, I'll go and do research online because, I did a lot of research, my master's, or even development studies. So, and then, I found the same thing, no representation. But what I saw in the data was there's a lot of shame and stigma, especially in our community, the Black, African, and Asian community, it's a lot of shame and stigma. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's just about telling the story, because I know how valuable lived experience is, because our association over time, resources dwindle because we are just supporting a lot of people now. And then when we started, I was a student and I had pocket money given to me by my parents that I didn't really use. I would put that in the association to support people. And they found that Andrew, he didn't have as many responsibilities, so he was able to support. But now, as we got married, had responsibilities, and I moved, it was impossible to do that. So I know one way that we are able to support people still is peer support. And what do you do in peer support? Really, live experience you use mainly in peer support. So I know the value, but also telling stories so people begin to accept. Because if you don't accept your condition, then you cannot have agency. And without agency, you cannot access support. You see, epilepsy, unlike sickle cell, has a lot of support. It's not enough. I know it's near not enough, but you compare it to the support that sickle cell get, or should I say, do not get, there is support. But people are not accessing it because, of course, if I feel like I cannot have epilepsy because I am Black, it's a white disease, I will not go and seek support. And that is why data is important. So while I was caring for Latifah and I couldn't do much, what I did was engage in research. And I did this through PPI, public patient involvement, with through Martin House, but with York University. And they were interested in social science-based research, really understanding not just the disease, but the human as well. So I participated in that. And our role as the Family Advisory Board, a group of parents and the researchers, was to make sure we were not just participants in the research, but of course, we are a relevant part of how that research would be designed and shaped, because our hope is it will one day influence policy, but also it will really solve the issues that need solving. So there's not just research, but one that is meaningful. And how is research meaningful when it can bring in the needed and desired change for the people it's designed for, really. So that's what we do on that. And through that, I've been involved in a lot of research, and sometimes it's just helping them refine the questions that they ask our community so that they can get answers, so that they can really look into those things and understand where the gaps are, so that those gaps can. So that's what Being Epilepsy does, together with sharing Latifah's story and my story. So I share Latifah's story as a child living with epilepsy and other disabilities. She has several. And like I said, NHS calls it a problem list because it's like she has an A4 size paper and everything there's just a list of all the things she has, really. So they call it a problem list. So we show what we do through telling her story. And Latifah loves the attention because she loves compliments. You just needed to tell her she looks in her dresses or her glasses and she's happy. If you don't tell her that, she closes her eyes and pretend she's sleeping. So
Oh, bless her. Bless her.
taught me so much about boundaries. So through her story, show people what life is like living with a disability as a child. And then I share how life is like, just parenting or mothering somebody like Latifah. Also living with my sickle cell. So some days I'll share about how I am in the hospital. I'm worried about Latifah, but I have to go to the hospital because that's how I stay well. She's at home with her nurses. And sometimes I get a call about, because in the morning she loves cuddles. It's one of the ways I calm her. When I'm going to the hospital like that, we don't have time to do morning cuddles. So most of the time when I'm leaving, she's very upset. And how does she? So she's upset. She goes into, a dystonic episode because she's learned that if I get stiff and do that, I get cuddles because she was non-verbal. She couldn't speak. So she used her body language. So she'll walk herself up in the frenzy when I'm leaving just to show me how upset she is. So sometimes they will feed her and then she will throw it all out. And I'm really worried, but I have to go. So then I call and they're like, she's settled out. Oh, she's not having it today. So that was Latifah. So that's why. And of course, I will share facts, which is I'll also do some research and just share key things people should know about epilepsy. Like for instance, how will you know if somebody has epilepsy? Because we can all have a seizure at one point in our life. So having one seizure doesn't make you epileptic. It has to be at least two. Those two things, those key things, or this misconception that we have in Africa is somebody is fit and foams and it gets on you, you will have epilepsy. Like if that was true, I should have epilepsy by now. I was the only one with Latifah, and when she's doing that, I cannot run away. So yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. We're almost rounding off. But before we round off, I think many people who might be listening or will be listening to this conversation may not have gone through exactly what you have gone through. They may not have gone through the exact situation that you've had to face. But they can relate to some of the moments, some of the things which are life can throw things to you, can throw unexpected challenges, and you're forced to find strength in that situation, strength you didn't even know you had. So looking at the life that you've had to live, what has it taught you about you?
Well, one thing that I am very resilient, and that's why I think I have authority to then coach in resilience, but also about change making. Like I had a comfortable life, so change really scares me. But there was no way when Latifah came, I had to create a new life, out of nothing really, because when you seek asylum, you're called a destitute, make to feel like one. And of course, the things that you had, the privilege you had, you lose it. Like people didn't even know what my name means. Like most people cannot even say it right. So yeah, like those little things that can also be big things. But generally just being seen as another human. So just letting go of the privilege I have, and then even making me even more compassionate because I began to understand even more some hard choices people have to make, which means it made me less of a judgmental person because I know the way we are brought up. Generally in society, we can be very judgmental. We think we know what somebody is going through or why they should or shouldn't do something, and then just being somebody who had to seek asylum, and not just even in the country of my birth, just generally seeking asylum and then becoming a refugee, and everything you have to go through that and everything you have to fight just did make me even more compassionate. But also along my journey, I am blessed to have met really nice people, and they come from every part of the world. They're not necessarily Black people. No, it's everybody really. In every group of people, you have really good ones, kind ones, and of course, you have very bad ones.
That's right.
A group of people. So I call the good people my human angels. And also I do know, and it's make me even more faithful, because I know that whenever it gets too hard, I'm like, God, I cannot handle this. I know you said you don't burden us, with things we cannot handle. We always have capacity for.
Yeah.
He brings me something. It could be in the form of a good person, a human angel, or just something comes across my way. It can be an interview like this one. Something comes and I'm like, thank you. So that helps me then feel grounded, catch my breath, and
Yeah.
then I know the next challenge I can now, face that challenge. So yeah,
Right.
so while I say my marriage is a work in progress, I think being here really helped me connect to God even more. And I tell people now, religion is what you do with community. Being spiritual is a personal journey. So I tell people I'm more
That's right.
spiritual than religious, because
Yeah.
now I know definitely when I sit and pray, and that most days, and that's why I like being alone, solitude. I'm in conversation with God because we are in conversation with Him. But
Mm-hmm.
because I'm
Mm-hmm.
alone and it's quiet, I can really listen to Him and hear His voice rather than the voice of
Yeah.
everybody else. Everybody else tell me why I should or shouldn't. That because I
Mm-hmm.
am a woman, I should keep giving, giving, giving just to gain a third of what men are getting, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
But because I can now sit and listen to God, like, should I give, 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 and not gain? Like, I don't even think God does that really. So things like that. So I'm in that way, I'm very grateful. And I know Latifah came to make me better. And yeah, so I'm really grateful for her. Like, it's been really so short. 5. She just turned 5 in September and she passed in November. So 5 years, 2 months.
Oh,
And we
wow.
were looking forward to so many things. She was growing up
Yeah.
beautifully, doing really well. And like me, like when I tell people all the things she have, they tell me she doesn't look it. And she's so
Mm.
sassy. She likes dressing up and
Wow.
making her hair. She likes looking well. So like you cannot really tell that she has everything that the NHS will call a problem list. So
Hmm.
yeah, it just make me better. Also, one key lesson with Latifah was, save your energy when the energy is off. Conserve your own. Like she doesn't even joke with it. If she feels
Hmm.
she's not going to get along with you, she just close her eyes and pretend she's sleeping. That's what she
Wow.
does.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a great lesson.
Clever
And if
girl.
she likes you, you know she likes you. If she doesn't, she's not quite sure. Just pretend she's
Yeah.
sleeping.
Oh, wow. Such a clever
Yeah.
girl. And I think
Oh, she is.
you've touched on how your daughter is, such a positive little human, even regardless what she's going through, you not even know. And I want to believe that is attributed back to you, the mom. I'm sure she
Maybe it
has
was just
learned.
yeah. Mainly me and her, and she was also very resilient. Like she can have a seizure early hours of the morning or late at night, and then still be
Yeah.
ready to go to school. Except she might still be sleeping.
Wow.
She loves her morning naps because she wakes up quite
Nap.
early. Latifah will be up like 2, 3 a.m. Like, seriously, are you going to do the
Wow.
adhan? The people that do that call to prayer.
Yeah.
I'm like, see, why are you up at this time? But then because she wakes up that early hours of the morning, when you're trying to get her ready for school, she's dozing off. So she doesn't really like to go anywhere
Ah.
at that time, but she enjoys
Yeah.
school because she enjoys stories. So she had cerebral visual impairment, so she had poor vision. For everything she lacked in her eyes, she's makeup in her ears. So she had keen hearing.
Right.
She's always telling me all the time in the kitchen. So when I'm holding Latifah, I have to put my phone on silent. Even now, I'm used to it. My phone is generally on silent. Any little noise, she picks it up and she will jump. And sometimes when she startles, it starts a seizure. So she loves listening. So she loves it when you read stories to her, when you sing to her,
Hmm.
or just listening
Yeah.
to the TV. So when they have movie night at school, she loves that. But I know that the very first week, I got a complaint. Like she's so sassy. Her teacher, class
Mm-hmm.
teacher, pulled me aside. It's Latifah, choosy. I'm like, what do you mean? It's like she was happily ignoring one of the teachers. I'm like, like because the sensory teacher, I wanted to know, how good or bad
Yeah.
her vision was. The sensory teacher stone
Oh,
light in her eyes. She didn't like it and pretended she
right.
was sleeping. The moment the teacher
Oh,
went off and they said, it's story time, Latifah opened her eyes and like,
wow. My
like I'm sorry.
goodness.
Yeah. like that. I'm sorry.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh, she's so sassy for sure. She's definitely
she
sassy.
is. She is
Yeah.
sassy, but yeah,
Oh,
we did.
bless
It
her.
was
Bless
hard,
her.
but we also had great support. Like the hospice that she goes to, they became
Mm-hmm.
like family. Like because she started going there just as I was divorced. Like I got divorced like just 2 months later I was born. So
Oh,
when I was
sorry
going
about
through
that.
that divorce, she just started going there. And so I think in a way they helped me because when I'm there, I know I don't have to worry so much. They will take care of her. So I can really focus a bit on me so I could process that a bit because it was really hard. Yes, my marriage
Yeah.
was, for me, it felt like it was breaking, but
Mm-hmm.
for it to break that way, I never envisioned that. I couldn't. I
Yeah,
didn't
I'm
think
sure.
that would ever happen. With the man I fell in love with, wouldn't have done something like that.
Mm.
So it was really hard in that way, but having them there, so I tell them it's more than you being in a hospital. You are part of family. And when she passed, they showed up again, like they brought this beautiful blanket, some teddies, and they make of these little things using her fingerprint. So I have those things in her keep box. So yeah, and they're still supporting me. It's just different now, but they're still supporting me through
Right.
my. So yeah, we've been blessed like that
That
as
is
well.
great.
Yeah.
That is good to hear. I'm glad to hear that you've got the support that you need. Glad to hear that. Really, really good. Jaime, before we close off, I would like you to just encourage one listener or one viewer who's going to be watching this, and maybe they are at a point in their life, they're listening, they're watching this, and they're overwhelmed by circumstances right now. What is that one thing that you would want them to remember?
Yes. So I start off, I'm a Muslim, so there's this quote in the Quran that says, alongside hardship is ease. There's one that says after hardship is ease. But the one that says alongside hardship is ease, that's really the story of my life. Even before I became a mother, I just living with sickle cell. So if you are not a Muslim and maybe you cannot relate to this, let me give you another one. Generally, they tell us our stories matter, but it's oftentimes what
Mm-hmm.
makes us not rise to the opportunity that story will bring. If it's a hard story, is the perception we come at it with.
Yeah.
It's how you tell the story, it's how you define that story.
Yeah.
If you are going to define your story as a sub story, I'm going to tell it in the way everybody's going to cry and feel sorry for me. Well, that will be your situation generally. But if you
Mm.
want to define your story and tell it as, yeah, it's hard, but this is also what I gained out of it,
Mm-hmm.
then you begin to see the little gems and perhaps even, there's this concept of meaning making, that whatever meaning you attach to something, so it becomes,
Yeah.
yeah. Of course, there are some stories like if you were really abused, like in a very, very horrific way, there's no other way to tell that story. Like, of course,
Absolutely.
over time, you might come to the acceptance of it. I know some people don't like that word and try to reframe it in a way that makes you live with it and perhaps not only survive, but thrive with it. But we cannot then remove the fact of you were abused and that was really hard and it took something from you. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm also talking about telling our stories from that point on. Okay, because I'm still here and I didn't die, it means I still need to live.
Yeah.
Like when Latifah's tube was taken out and she breathed, I'm like, yeah. If she's still here, there's a reason why she is. And we just go with it as long
Right.
as she stays here because already they told me she's going to die young. It's just I didn't expect that it would be at 5.
Mm.
Because now people with Latifah's condition, some of them are growing to age 25. You see?
Mm.
Yeah. So that's it. If it happened to you, I'm not saying if you don't believe in there's a reason for it, that's fine. But if you're still alive, it means you're meant to go on. So then how can you
Yeah.
use that story to go on in a beautiful way? I think
Yeah,
that
that's
will
right.
be the message
That's
I
right.
want people to carry. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Taking your sorrows, taking your challenges, and turn it into something that is beautiful. Taking those ashes into beauty, even though it's very hard, but
Mm-hmm.
eventually It's possible. It is possible. So before we go, Njaime, where can people find you? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm LinkedIn on with my official
People.
name, Njaimeh Mbogeh. I'm also on Facebook because I like Facebook better than Instagram because I like writing as Njaimeh Mbogeh. Are you here? That's where you found me, so you can share that link. Also on Instagram as J your storytelling poet. I do share my poetry there once and again, but Insta is visual, so I'm not I'm not very visual in that way. So I like writing. So it's Facebook you will see me mostly or LinkedIn. Yeah. Excuse me.
Okay.
And I have
Really
the
cool.
resilience building group if you want to join that as well. It's on Facebook. So but I'm Facebook, you'll find me.
Thank you so much, Njaime. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being so open and allowing us to be part of your journey. And the one thing I liked about her story is how much it is a powerful reminder that even when life presents us with incredible, difficult moments, those moments do not have the final say. So her story is a complete reminder of that. It shows us that anything is possible. It shows us that anything is possible to move from survival to strength and eventually to thrive. And we have seen that with her story. She has taken what the challenges, the things that she has to go through, been going through, and have looked for a way in which to make it a point of strength and help other people who are currently going through sickle cell and who have children facing epilepsy. So thank you so much for that word, for that story. And I believe it'll be an encouragement to a lot of my listeners. So before we go, I want to leave my listeners with this verse today. You might not be a believer or anything, but I'll just leave you with this verse. It's Philippians 4, verse 13. It says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can do all things through the Messiah who strengthens me. So let that be an encouragement that whatever you may face in your life, be encouraged. You will get your strength from above. Will get your strength if you believe in the Most High to strengthen you and take you through your journey, just like we have seen in Njaimeh's story. So if today's conversation has encouraged you, be sure to like this video, share it with a friend who needs to hear this, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on any of the conversations that we will be having on this channel. So for now, we are checking out and don't miss out on our next conversation. So take care and stay blessed. Bye-bye.